Paranormal activity, close encounters of the third kind, alien abductions, unidentified flying objects, UFOs, terms that we've all heard at least once in our lives, but what do they mean? Have aliens visited planet Earth? And if so, where is the proof of these so-called alien visitations? Where's the proof of alien life? And why is it hidden? Year upon year, people laid claim to seeing strange objects in the sky. Creatures in the night, paranormal events, unexplainable events, visits from strange beings. And year upon year this number of people is dramatically increasing. To this day, many of these cases remain unanswered.
Well, I started looking into the UFO scene about 6 years ago. It started off, I had a witness myself. It was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was woken up about 5 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't see nothing, but it was just a bright yellow light outside, and it just moved across the sky, and it just disappeared. And it just grew straight from there. Basically, I just wanted to get more into it, so I started reading books, and just basically stemmed from there. I get phone calls off the public with sightings or general information. I just basically just take it from there, investigate it, look at other leads, possibilities, and just take it from there.
Amateur footage has played its part in the UFO mystery. However, it's not always the case that the public capture UFO evidence. Often, Royal Air Force jets or NASA space shuttles record some unexplainable events. Images from the NASA Space Shuttle Discovery show what appears to be 16 or more UFOs leaving the Earth's atmosphere. Several of these UFOs remain unidentified to this day. Objects hovering in the distance, strange lights in the sky. What are they? What are they doing? If we are to believe government, then these images are not that of secret test planes, but instead something very different. They can often be explained as weather balloons, space debris. Often, they're simply a hoax. Occasionally, they remain unexplained. The British government have remained open-minded regarding UFO phenomena, and are willing to look at any image or footage submitted to them.
In its literal sense, UFO is of course what it says on the label, unidentified flying object, therefore anything in the sky that the observer isn't at the time able to identify. Now, there's a sort of lazy shorthand that some people equate UFO to extraterrestrial spacecraft. That's not, of course, the case. And when I was doing my official research and investigations, most of these things could be explained in terms of misidentifications of known objects and phenomena.
I think you need to be really clear about what a UFO is. Now, a UFO is an unidentified flying object. It's nothing more, it's nothing less. Many people will see strange objects, and as I say, then if they don't understand what they're looking at, they may interpret it in different ways. If I can just give you a very small example, meteors or shooting stars, as they're referred to, are small grains of dust or very small pebbles coming into the atmosphere and burning up. Now, depending on the angle they enter the Earth, and depending on the amount of friction they build up, they can then be slowed down by that friction, and then they can actually change direction. And it's not unknown to see shooting stars enter the atmosphere, appear as a streak of light travelling in one direction, and then suddenly disappear for a fraction of a second, and then reappear travelling in a different direction. That's a purely natural event, but anybody seeing it would see one or maybe several bright lights in the sky travelling in a particular direction, and then suddenly changing direction, and the inference then is, well, that must be a spacecraft. Well, it isn't, it's a purely natural event.
Well, the main reports, the most familiar one is the triangle shape. That's very familiar. I've had a few reports of them, and that from all around the country.
The only thing I'll say is this, that the people who you'd most expect to see objects in the sky are astronomers. Our astronomers are the people who are observing the sky regularly. There are hardly any reports, if any, from astronomical observatories of objects that the astronomers can't explain away.
When looking for evidence to prove that there is life out there, we look to photographs as proof. But with the increase of UFO sightings, has there also come the increase of hoax photography? With the growing number of hoax photographs, it has become increasingly difficult to identify images that are real and images that are simply faked. The increase in hoax photography will always hinder the search for truth.
When you're looking at photos or videos, I think you have to go in with an open mind. I think you can easily spot, you know, the obvious fakes, because they'll be fairly grainy, and you'll have something which is fairly obviously a thrown object or something suspended from a narrow wire. And of course, it's possible to check those. And that's the key. You've got to analyse the image properly, scientifically, get it enhanced, and do a proper investigation on it. I've seen a wide range of photos and videos that have either been sent to me during my tour of duty or were sent to my predecessors, and of course there's an awful lot out there in books and on the internet. I've had one or two cases where I really have thought that an image is intriguing, and after a proper scientific analysis there's been no conventional explanation, but I can't really go into great detail on that.
I am a believer, but when I get an image, I always go through the line of science, try and look for an explanation.
Technology both helps and hinders us in looking at UFOs. On the one hand, with all sorts of commercial computer programs, one can enhance and effectively create some very spectacular fake footage. On the other hand, the proliferation of digital cameras, and particularly, I predict, mobile phones with that capacity, means we should be getting more images to look at. There'll always be a hard core of UFO sightings that you can't explain in conventional terms. And, you know, there are some intriguing cases there. Structured craft, apparently capable of speeds and manoeuvres beyond the cutting edge of our own technology, sometimes seen by reliable witnesses such as pilots or military personnel, and often tracked on radar. And the answer to that is we just don't know. Extraterrestrial? Possibly. You know, is there evidence? Maybe. Is there proof? No.
Central to the debate surrounding whether there is life on other planets are the alleged physical encounters people claim to have had with strange beings from outer space.
I've always had an interest in flying saucers and anything to do with the paranormal. I hadn't experienced much till about 1991, and that started with an experience. At the time, I'd been reading books on astral projection and attempting to achieve this, and then one night, it was June 91, I became like a bit numb. I had this flashing sensation, this noise in my ears, but this was a lot more severe than I'd experienced before. And I knew in the past fear would stop it, so if you open your eyes, that's gone. And I thought, well, I'll go with this. I half opened my eyes and I experienced somebody at my right hand side, and I closed my eyes again and opened them again, and in front of me there was a door, and it had like a green fluorescent light running backwards and forwards across it, and that door isn't there in reality. So I closed my eyes, and the next thing I found myself, I was in a small room. It was like benches around on all walls. And there were these people, they looked human, they were naked, but they had a grey skin, and they had like larger blotches of grey throughout, they were quite speckled. Now the eyes were like black diamond shapes with gold flecks in, a bit like a cat's eyes.
In sleep paralysis, it's well documented that there will be kind of bright lights. In terms of seeing alien beings, then we have a problem which is referred to in the psychological literature as reality monitoring. So how do you distinguish between what is real and what is merely imagined, between something that you've dreamt or something that has actually occurred? The most plausible explanation, it seems to me, is sleep paralysis. The person is essentially kind of paralyzed, but they then they wake up, they're unable to move, they often will have kind of visions of kind of lights, they might feel perhaps a sensation of floating, they may feel that something's pressing down on them, they may have this kind of notion of a kind of figure at the end of the bed. All of these are very, very common.
I've looked into about 100 cases of people who claim to have had, I guess, the closest form of encounter of all, a so-called alien abduction experience. Now, typically these people will report in the first instance having seen a UFO, but then they'll claim that they were somehow incapacitated and taken on board, and they will often report round white rooms and been placed on their backs on some form of table or raised platform. They'll report entities, typically short, sort of 3.5 feet tall, grey figures, humanoid but with very large oval-shaped eyes, and they will report some form of medical or quasi-medical procedure carried out.
They go through a lot of experiments, like drilling in the teeth, in the nose, the ears. Some reports of little objects left in the back of the neck, like little metallic objects, and just a lot of experiments, severe experiments.
The following chain of events was one man's frightening encounter with alien beings. The man chose not to appear in this program, but rather gave us permission to recreate the events of that day.
I received a phone call, a gentleman phoned me saying that he was very quiet spoken, very nervous, you know, saying that he wasn't sure what had happened, but he went for a ride out. He was going back about 2 weeks ago. Seen a bright light come down, so obviously he stopped his car, you know, I didn't know what it was, and the light was coming towards him. Then he realised he was in another room, couldn't talk, couldn't scream, could open his mouth, that was about it. Before I knew, he woke back up in the car. He said he doesn't believe in anything like this, but obviously something's happened, and he just wanted answers of what's actually happened.
The abductees are not mad. You know, they seem to genuinely believe what they say. There is some form of phenomenon at play. Whether it's a physical one or not, we just don't know. But they're not crazy.
Close encounters of the fourth kind, actual physical contact with alien beings, is the most frightening of thoughts. Yet it still remains inconclusive as to whether aliens are visiting planet Earth. What is for certain is the paranormal presence in these abduction cases.
We aren't ready for them as a whole. There's a lot of what we call rising consciousness. People have to be aware of things before things happen.
I have no doubt that we share this universe with many other life forms, some of which, like us, will be intelligent. Whether any of that life has visited us, I don't know. I think there's some intriguing evidence, but I can't bring you anything and say that constitutes proof.
There's people out there who think they're actually on the planet today, walk around with us now. Other reasons to take over the planet. You know, it's like any type of force. Would you jump in head first? You know, you'd take your time and you plan things. You know. But one day, I believe one day they'll make themselves known.
Current research suggests an infinite number of galaxies like our own. Surely this increases the possibility of life on other planets. If all incidents involving UFOs were to be believed, this would mean that thousands of alien craft visit planet Earth every year. Are our governments withholding truth from us? What do you believe?